Greetings and welcome. This is Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. We are guided and blessed by Spirit. Thank you for the regular viewers, new viewers, old-timers from day one. Thank you, gratitude and blessings for everyone. If you're listening to this, we are still living in a restless place called Earth. Trigger warning, the subject matters of a mature nature and deals with true crime and world events. Disclaimer, all cases, names, people are treated as allegedly, until proven in a court of law. All numbers used in this case pertain to the case context specifically and bears no resemblance to similar or same numbers you may have in your date of birth. Welcome to Intuitive Sundays, finally. I've been prepping the slides for the past week or so. Well, I started Wednesday, I think. And of course, as time goes, some fall off, some are on. The ones that you see, we are going to be doing a quick dip into the Royal Hoax Show, where we're now starting to see some of the cards are falling apart, right? How's the cards falling apart in Buckingham Palace? I found this photograph of Harry, hasn't been altered. He's got this demonic lightning bolt on the back here. What I found interesting, it was published post the visit with Charles, which I've marked here, was on September the 10th. Oh, yeah, they are, yeah. September the 10th. So we'll have a peruse and see what was going on behind closed doors. A lot of mudslinging all of a sudden. Yeah, it's not ideal. Harry didn't do this. He left a photograph of the kids. I suppose we can never fully understand how masonry move around and their sacrificial sacrifices. So if he technically only arrived on the 8th, he would have stayed in the US for his ceremonial bloodbath, or I still suspect he may have snuck in. Anyway, be that as it may, this week, we discover that Fergie has been covering for Prince Philip, knowingly covering. Initially, she was, of course, shocked that her husband could dabble in young hors d'oeuvres. And as we know, this week, pretty much throughout the week, but the week ironically started September the 22nd, we find 22-4. Now, I'm going to say again, these Epstein files, what we know about the Epstein files is like the tip of the iceberg. New news coming out at the end of this week as well. Elon Musk is named in the Epstein files. We still haven't had a response from Mr. X. Let's see how he comes out of this one. So we have Fergie, who, she's like, what is Epstein's accomplice name? Giselle or whatever her name is. Gazelle or whatever. The pimp's pimp. Now Fergie, turns out she's a pimp's pimp as well. Taken allegedly, and we need to verify, but according to reports, £2 million. She obviously didn't use it wisely. So we got the House of Cards falling down. Greetings to our lovely Princess Diana. Welcome, welcome aboard. I wonder, growing up, sacrificial, demonic, these royal family people, masonry, his masonry gesture, always present. I wonder why he wants to come home. Maybe it's sweeter on the other side, whereas in LA, there's a lot of pollution in the... So let's have a look. Harry, ask Tom Hanks, he's got a few more vials left. He'll sell it to you for $1 million a vial, right? How vile. All right, September 10, Harry meets King Charles. No surprises. Day starts with a 10, 1, 19, 10, 10. Okay, let's see what we can pick up here. Because we must be more intuitive on them Sundays. I actually feel not everyone is happy with William. Now, I don't watch other people's shows and then create my show and things like that. But I'm getting a sense. You see, when you have these 10-1 motherfuckers, right? It's the global elite. We know the royal family are billionaires, right? It's all about the money, all about the land, all about keeping rich. So very procession on the surface. So let's go a bit deeper. Let's go into the intention. Intention, new beginnings, 13-4. So it's true that Harry wants to leave. Well, how much can you make selling jam, right? In the US, you would call it jelly. In the UK, South Africa, we call it jam. Not doing too well there in the orchids. 13-24 is definitely about the children. So the intention is seeking new beginnings. So if we go the day before, how's he feeling when he has his last cup of tea, knowing he's going to meet Charlie Boy the next day? There's a bit of a 21-3. There's a 21-3. So haven't been in these old corridors for a while. Been living in modern California. 12-3. Part of the group, part of the family, although there's still that stiffness, awkwardness. 30 outcome 3. So is the Queen Mother not happy? The witch alongside Charlie. 30 outcome 3 has had a bit of a hoo-ha maybe, huh? It's amazing how she couldn't make the Duchess's funeral, and yet the very next day she's tugging on Trump's short string. Let's see here, 22-4, 13-4. All right, so yeah, we're definitely on for a breakup here, ladies and gentlemen. We find ourselves in the +3 when Charles is trying to hand over photographs and this is your grandchildren, you blackmailing motherfucker. So we go 31-4. That's breaking off family. So let's keep it family level. No one's dead yet. Charles has still got a while to go. 31-4. So that means breaking up of marriage papers. That means, and I'm just going with the vibe, 31-4, I think the jam company's done, eh? I think the jelly factory there in LA is going to close, if you know what I mean. 31-4 is breaking of official papers, family-related papers. Now, we can agree Harry didn't go there and tear up his royal decree in front of his father and say, I hate you, Dad, and then he leaves. So he flew all that way just to do that in his face, right? All about the family. 22-4-13-4. All about the family. All right, so in the action, oh, look there, the night before, so this is September 10, the night before, snacks on the table, 33-6, 24-6, 15-6, probably sitting in the cellar, dungeon one, enjoying their sacred rituals. Oh, Queen Elizabeth popped in for tea, is it? And some blood-curdling stories. Motherfuckers. Disgusting. All right. So we go into 16-7. Of course, let's start before sunrise. Let's choke it to death. 25-7, 60. Okay, so there's definitely divorce on the papers here. A lot of 16-7s. Hidden 25-7. So we can agree that Harry's not happy with the jam factory. There's conflict between the owners of the jam factory. 34-7, that's about the family now. Huh? So when will we hear about this? Because there's double confirmation. 31-4. So 31-4 in the intention. This is what he intends to do. It's like the papers are done. The legal papers are done. And then we find September 16, well, beg your pardon, in retro, looking back, it's coming soon, if not already, 16-7, divorce, separation. The jam factory has stopped working, has it? So we go 19, so these guys are very processional and what, huh? So we find in the all is revealed in the +9 is the 28-10-1. Hidden 28-10-1 says definitely sending message to daddy. Here on in, so in other words, when Harry returns to his farm, I intentionally left the kid's picture out. I don't mind the attention if Harry comes after me like he does with the Sun and the Mirror and any other newspaper that speaks about him. But God forbid he has the bolt of the devil on the back of his shirt, huh? Always supporting them ritual motherfuckers because he is a Freemason. All right, so now when Harry gets back after the secret meeting, he goes outdoors with his son. There, I promised you, there's the child. I'm still committed to the cabal. Remember, this lightning, if you're listening, thank you very much for your ears. The lightning bolt is synonymous with these ritualistic pricks. And we find when we did the Portal series that Harry Potter, remember Harry Potter? He's got him the lightning bolt on his head or somewhere, right? On his forehead like a dick. All right, so yeah, when Harry gets home after the secret meeting, he confirms outwardly all is okay and going according to plan, as we discussed. Whatever happened to Susie the night before? So, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing, and it's pretty obvious, right? I believe that jam factory closed quite a while ago. I wonder if that 30 outcome 3 could have been Megan having a moment on the orchard farm. But I would say this is Camilla. You said he will never come back to this family. Charles, he's my son. And he's got grandchildren. So while that is happening, meanwhile, across the way, now Sarah Ferguson has sold her townhouse quickly. Sold her townhouse this week. £4.2 million. Why would she sell her lovely, beloved Belgravia townhouse? Because if we know what happened to old Prince Pedophile Philip, the king didn't give him a penny. And when the doors are going to close, and they are going to close, they're going to need all the money they can get. Why don't we ask Kate's parents how they bowed another knee? You got to bow the knee to the Blood King. This issue of, I've just been reminded again, so they're speaking and talking about William as well, right? So in the +6, so William numbers are around the day after, okay? So William is all the 11 twos, whereas they met on the 10 ones. See, there's a 20 outcome 2 crying the next day. Who's that? So when Charlie Boy and Harry meet, in the turnaround, we've got a 20 outcome 2, 29, 11, 2, 38, 11, 2. Did Harry go back to the cottage and cry? I think Harry's really missing the fish and chips, if you get my drift. And then the following day, we find a 39, 12, 3, hidden 30 outcome 3. That's interesting. Have a look here. So in the zone, we have a hidden 30 outcome 3, 12, 3, right? Keep that in mind. I just scanned over these slides before when our lovely princess put a whole lot of items in her time capsule. Look in the +9. 30 outcome 3 hidden, 12, 3. Hidden, 30 outcome 3, 12, 3 in the +9. And then we look at Harry. Harry, in the zone, we find the 30 outcome 3, 12, 3. So is this about honoring Queen Elizabeth's wishes? How it must be done in the royal family? Them lizard motherfuckers. All right. Always like to give a bit of a nugget in the show. When Harry met Sally. All right, ladies and gentlemen. News breaking end of the week. The unfortunate murder of the young girls in the yogurt shop, which took place on the evening of December the 6th, 1991. I have previously looked at this episode. Well, I mean, beg your pardon, let me clarify that. I previously looked at this case and I did an episode. I have not re-looked at my episode. The purpose of here is now they've identified the perp. According to them, Robert Eugene Brashes. So 25 years after he does himself in because he was cornered in another crime, according to reports. Now, 25 years after that, and some, let's say 10, 35, 34 years later, through DNA research, which is happening currently, yes, perfect, thank you, cases are going to get solved. What I wanted to do is, do they have the perp and what is going on, right? So this character born March 13, 1958, we have a 3 plus 13, 4. That's from his month and day, which gives us the 16-7 in the day. 1958 gives us the 23-5. So the outcome 39-12-3, the number of the episode, 39-12-3. We'll speak a bit more about it. We always speak about it on this channel, 39-12-3. Has good and bad meanings, like all numbers, positive and negative. We find that, okay, so let's look at him. So he's got a 39-12-3, 30 outcome 3, 21-3, so he's all threes. Now, I will say, if we ever had to do a pressure test for this character, and yes, I now have the privilege of knowing that he was a criminal and he did some bad things. I don't know the finer details. But when you have people with threes, right, males in particular, males. Now, it's not to say this fits every glove, no. Depending on your level of consciousness, depending on the environment you grew up in, depending on the circumstances you lived your life, the decisions you make will determine your outcome, right? We know in the negative, if you have particularly this 39-12-3, even the 30 outcome 3, all these threes, speaks about abuse and control. Unfortunately, when we find crimes against women and children, particularly women, when it gets to their partners, we always find threes at the scene because it's about control. And he has a 16-7 in the middle of the day. So this guy, if we had to look at it in the negative, is a bit of a chameleon, serial behavior. So his numbers would suggest, and don't get the heebie-jeebies if they look like your numbers. In his case, serial behavior, serial nature, bit of a badass numbers here, right? Now, if we look at the crime specifically, and we're not getting emotionally involved here, we're looking at specifics, right? So 11 p.m. when I recall people hanging around when it was closing time, right? So it's registered at his 11 p.m. So it means the time of the event begins with numbers 38-11-2, 29-11-2, 20 outcome 2-11-2. Now we do the turnaround to include the next 2 rows of the next day to complete a full cycle. We find the 7. So there's the 7, murder of innocence. Okay. Then it's followed by 19-10-1. So to do the test, there's no direct match, in my opinion. There's no direct match of his numbers within the crime scene. Now, if you're watching visually, you will already see that December 7th, the outcome is 39-12-3, 30 outcome 3, 21-3, 12-3, 3. Yes, it's a direct match to Robert. The problem is, it's not in the crime scene, it's after the fact. Similar situation where we've just had with the Kirk shooter, happens to be the event takes place and his numbers are not in the scene except after the fact. In the +9 of December 7. So this is the midnight into the next day, right? after the event, we find a 48-12-3. So we're getting suspicious numbers around what would be, according to the narrative, evil Joe Soap is having a milkshake. He's scouting the place. He leaves. He comes back and he causes mayhem, right? But why are there so many operational numbers before? So in other words, everyone's getting ready before. At the doorstep of the crime, there are operational numbers: 37-10-1, 28-10-1, 19-10-1. With the outcome intention 18-9, murder. Okay. 38-11-2 in the zone, 38-11-2, 29-11-2 speaks about collective. Last week's episode, 38-11-2, there is collective knowledge of an unlawful event. 11-2 is about the law. So you're telling me this single-handed person is so operational. He's a machine, by all accounts. Operational numbers in the actual days, not in his charts. That when the sacrifice is finished, 7, murder of innocents, it ends with a 19-10-1 operation. Only after the fact. In fact, if we want to be pedantic, we'll say on the evening after the murders, the evening after, so 24 hours later, then we only see Robert. So what is going on here? Something is not adding up. I will say, the only thing that adds up here with this timeline is that unfortunately the 4 girls were taken out. Murder of innocents. In the +3 of the 24-hour scan, we find a 33-6. 33-6 sacrifice. All right, let's keep those numbers in mind, because now I've been told to go here. You will recall movies like Jacob's Ladder, which subsequently came out either just before or just after Silence of the Lambs. So the full CIA 39-12-3 program is kicking in via cinema and in the real and in the present with these social bloggers, solo travelers on YouTube that are also disappearing all of a sudden. There's an episode called MK Ultra. I'll put the link here. Social media and mainstream media, right? There's a slide here I want to show you, and I'll talk you through it. One of the very first known, documented MK Ultra LSD experiments was performed on June 9, 1953. That in the action or in the real we find 33-6. In the +6 we find 39-12-3. 30 outcome 3, 21-3, 12-3, 3. Let me zoom in. In the action of the experiment, we find 39-12-3, 30 outcome 3, 21-3, 12-3, 3. The CIA, with their murderous date of birth numbers, we find 39, 12, 3, 30, outcome 3, 21, 3, 12, 3, 3. I love it when they try to mend their faux pas over time, right? Maybe not show that one. Yeah, Mr. Olson. The great Mr. Olson, one of the very first victims of MK Ultra, one of the very first victims who were speaking out against MK Ultra. November 28, 1953, military background, military grade LSD, military pronged MK Ultra workings, right? What do we find on the evening of his murder? On the evening of his murder, 39, 12, 3, 30, outcome 3, 21, 3, 12, 3, 3. We have, we see it, I see it quite often with MI5, MI6, and of course also with the CIA, FBI. These guys are so methodical, right? You almost like, I'm just going to speak metaphorically, right? And it's not necessarily the actual, but just to give you a sense of what I'm seeing through the numbers. It's always the same shoe print. It's always the same fingerprint. It's the same numbers around. It's the same kind of operation. Nothing ever changes. This is the way we do it because it works, right? So you'll always see the same structure and sequence of numbers in events like this that has been perpetrated on society by those that govern society. Don't know why people vote for them if this is what they do. But unfortunately, in the US, the citizens don't have the final say. So we find the evening of the event that we find a portal sequence, 89 portal sequence stack of twos. This was operational, sadistic, ritualistic, and they still want to feed us bullshit in the middle of the day, right? Sorry to say. News coming out of Houston. I see there's a bit of an issue going on here. There's been another woman's body found. So this was yesterday, would have been the 27th. A lot of nines around yesterday. A sixth body has been found within 10 days in Houston, in the same area. Well, 3, 4, by all accounts, 4 all in the same river type thing, right? So I'll have to dig a bit deeper there to see what is going on. But all the dates are very close to each other, And I will just say, based on previous research, September 18th was a ritualistic day for them ritualistic motherfuckers. So just letting you know, I'll have a look at this and see what's going on there. But 6 bodies in 10 days. We got problems there. And September has been rife with this bullshit, right? Oh. This week, Travis Decker was declared deceased. And that was announced the 26th, I believe, or they found 25th, September the 25th, they found him, or remains of him. The announcement. Now look at something here. And we saw this, unfortunately, with, and we saw this with Celeste, right? In that the synchronicity of the numbers, for example, in Celeste's case, when she left and came back, in the case of Travis. So the announcement confirmation, the confirmation of his DNA being the DNA at the campsite, right? The outcome of the day, 44-8, 26-8, 17-8-8. Let's move his chart up here. Look at his date of birth. 44-8, 35-8, 26-8, 17-8, right? The day of the incident, 44-8, 26-8, 17-8-8. The fact that the announcement and the discovery matches, so the announcement and discovery are these 2 days here. And we just got to wonder, why is it so perfect? Okay. As we saw in Celeste's case, the day of discovery matches the day she disappears to the T. So we find, yes, 44-8 in play. The grand design. Let's follow the sequence of events, right? As terrible as this crime is, but there are other things at play. For example, and we just spoke about it, Project MK Ultra. In fact, if you watch the Blue Rabbit series, we are witnessing, in parts, MK Ultra at its maximum, still operating in 2025. When they said, oh no, we stopped that during the 80s and 90s after we killed the Olsen, after we murdered so many other people. We've done all our experimentation on our citizens. We've stopped doing that now. Jimmy and the clan have just popped in again from 27. Janis Joplin. We do find corroborating evidence, 31-4, unfortunately. The giveaway for me, and you know, I was actually going to do this case last week. You may have seen it in my slides for last week's episode. But when I was about to do it, I was told to wait. And just as well, because this week we had the breaking news. The giveaway, 5 plus 32.5, the day after. Now let's go one step back, 31.4, unfortunately the children. Then we find an 18.9 immediately. We don't find a 16.7 self. 18.9 is perpetrated by someone else. This 32.5 is breaking of unit X123 with dosage XYZ has been terminated. Sound familiar? Oh, Jason Bourne, motherfucker. Because I was trying to find other movies that I could relate to this story. Jason Bourne actually would be the right one. I brought in Shutter Island for the pure reason I brought in Shutter Island, because the narrative is mental issues, mental health issues. and happens to kill 3 children. In Shutter Island, mental issues, and kills 3 children. What I did notice in Shutter Island's numbers, so here we got 15-6 in the middle of the day. That's the 15-6. That's the guy in the middle of the day. 18-9 murder. We see a collection of 3s, which, yes, we can all debate the theory behind chemical imbalance or chemicals, because we also know psychiatry is not 100% proven. That's another rabbit hole to go down, but I'm just saying. So, presence of all 3s, I will say, in the presence of MK Ultra, the LSD nonsense bullshit, we're talking chemicals, right? 3 is in a chemistry situation. 3 is the chemicals. So in the +6, interestingly, this is Shutter Island, 24-6, 15-6. So 24-6, the family. So it's not necessarily saying the children only, it's saying family. Now that I'm seeing it, as I just said that, interesting, that weird one that there's no kids, right? So maybe it's just a movie, it's the family. So 24-6, 27-9, premeditated, and we got all these out to kill to 3s. All right. When the father is on the run, why is his name slipping out of my head? Mr. Decker, on the run, now this is on the run with the kids. On the run with the kids, still alive. Before they die, we see a 30 outcome 3. Chemical bomb. Chemical bomb activated in the brain. Zap. 2025. So when the group starts, when they terminate serial number, blop, 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 it is followed by 37-10-1. I had a feeling he was already gone soon after, right? But the numbers are saying, yes, he was taken out. He was murdered. He himself was murdered. Post the children event, unfortunately. The 32-5 breaking of groups, followed by 37-10-1 for the purposes of 46-10-1 human sacrifice. If the shop window of the CIA and the FBI say Christian, homely values, hand on the Bible, just peer behind the curtain and see what is actually going on, right? Followed by a 33-6. When they take Mr. Decker out, okay, when they take him out, we find a 39-12-3, 48-12-3, 21-3, 12-3-3. I'm not discounting the horror of what has transpired here. Mind control is real. Operations are still existent. Now, we can say, like well, I suppose using the movie I mentioned, what was it now? With Damon, voluntarily went to the office and said, wow, I heard about the Blue Rabbit experiment. I'd love to join that experiment. Because he wants to serve his country, right? Isn't that perhaps the initial basis? I want to serve my country. I want to work with the best, the elite. I'll render my services for God and country. Only to come out a few months later, or however long it takes for their programming, now has got a mission. I'm not discounting the horrors of the situation. We are talking about mind control. There was a comment made that perhaps Mr. Decker was possessed, demonic possessed, or someone's mentioned somewhere. A community member said on this channel, was he demonically taken over? So I looked for evidence. Now we find, now this would constitute the day, still before the children pass, but the day that he's on the run, right? The outcome in the evening, so this would be where he is now, right? We find a 50 outcome 505. Now, under normal circumstances, that would denote demonic possession or demonic presence or demons around. The problem here is the supporting numbers. So on its own, it can mean that. But in order to validate that was the case, you would need supporting numbers. The issue here is what I'm getting to. There are too many controlling numbers around with operational numbers around. So in other words, what I'm seeing here looks very military type, looks very operational, very well planned. How ironic, and this I believe would have tormented Mr. Decker here. Post the event in the +9, so the event is happened in the act and then post. There's a 40 outcome 4 here. Could this mean that once he had completed what he did under, let's say, duress, and I do not condone his actions, I find it repugnant what he did, but what they orchestrated under mind control. That did they, let's say, switch the switch off, whatever the Q word is, okay, and then he realizes what he's just done. 40 outcome 4. Would they have done that to him? Do you know what I mean? They need to make it real that he killed the kids. I keep getting again, he wasn't alone. He wasn't alone. At the same time, when he has his outburst and the kids are dying, dead, 37-10-1. We find when all of this is going down, 39-12-3, 48-12-3. in the +1, 49, 13, 4. The sacrifice that took place here was to appease this pedophilia bullshit, harm to kids bullshit. In my humble opinion, and he's been around, ironically. He wasn't around before until the past 48 hours. That he may have walked into the sign-up room and said, I want to serve God and country. The only way I know how to is to be a Marine. Hey, Matt Damon. And he comes out the room 3 months later, 6 months, 9 months, who knows? A killing machine. Now, in my opinion, like we saw with it may have begun a little bit earlier, but certainly New Year's Eve last year, we find a Marine or someone from the military background driving through the streets of New Orleans. And there's been several of them lately. And I believe, once the program's ready, let's run it. Let's test and see what goes on. And it started on New Year's Eve, of 2024, Eve 2024, into January 1, 2025. That we find ourselves with programs running in the open for the public to witness and experience. And a nation school, the church shooting, Charlie Kirk, the yogurt shop, You know, 3912.3. It's a frequent number in this channel, in that we're focusing at crime in the negative, in the main, because 3912.3, in the context of government, and the like, army, it's about exacting and enforcing control on populace through whatever means at their disposal. So, as I was about to record this episode, like there wasn't a lot already, right? A community member pointed out the unfortunate demise of these three young ladies from Argentina, Buenos Aires. Del Castillo, 20 years old, Verdi, 20, Gutierrez, 15, were invited to a party. I don't want to make light of it, but remember about a week or so ago I said, if you get an invitation to a party that you know for a fact they would never invite you, right? Well, unfortunately, we have a terrible situation here. Interesting, the government would use influencers. So what are they saying? So we find recently in Russia, excuse me a moment, I've had to take some Valioids and anti-nausea flippant tablets. My stomach has been so sensitive since my food poisoning episode. And I bought the food genuinely from a really upmarket shop. So no underlying issues. But I've become so paranoid about eating. But the last 3 days, I've been feeling a bit iffy again. And there's a lot of word going around of bugs. Careful for flying bugs. All right. Very, very tragic event with these 3 young ladies, and we are going to look at what is going on here. The manner of death is horrendous, as bad as it can be, unfortunately. So the invite goes out, and the party is on September the 19th, 2025. It's approximately, 10 days ago, 9 days ago. The September the 18th, the day before, heavy nines, and that in itself is ritualistic day. But in this case, we're dealing with something else here. It was about human sacrifice. So have a look here. Unfortunately, September 19, in the +9, revealed, we find a 4610-1. 4610-1, human sacrifice. Now here's the issue. Hidden. I haven't done deep research. I literally read this, looked at it before the recording. Hidden, 3710-1. Now, what I've read in terms of the narrative, it's a drug gang or whatever, right? This is not drug gang. There's something else going on here. So let's see what we can uncover. Being influences, these narco countries and that. Wasn't Argentina the safe haven for the Nazi mass murderers? Let's see here. 22. Yep. Data and information sharing issues here. So in the +3 we have, it leads by 22-4, so definitely coerced into the situation. 22-4. So we're looking for South America, from the perspective of South America. 22-4, 13-4. So those are those Insta stories, messaging. So for example, we saw in Russia the 2 women and the guy who took a selfie in front of one of the Russian refineries that was on fire, right? That was hilarious. So yes, we have the same situation here. Now, when you have these 40, outcome 4, 22-4, 13-4, that is military. Military. I'd even go as to say, I don't know what their structure is in terms of, so you go military, then it's like in the US, you'll have what we see in the streets now with the ICE, and in New York, in Washington recently. So 40 outcome 4 can bring around the drug lords. I will say 40 outcome 4 can bring around the drug lords. But in conjunction with all these operational numbers, and we can say, yes, they're heavily equipped and they run like armies, they are militia. Not when you have a hidden 3710-1. That's higher ups. 7, you're dealing with people in authority, official authority. So once again, like in Venezuela, we have narco working with government. So the intention, they want to destroy evidence 31-4. So did these influences reveal something, or are they continuing to reveal things about the country, for example, that they don't want other foreigners to know about? But it's certainly about data, information sharing through little stories, Insta stories, TikTok stories. So they don't like, so the day after reveals a 14-5, no mystery there. 14-5, which is foul play. And then 32-5, oof. 32-5 is unfortunately what they did to the bodies, unfortunately. Destruction. And then 41-5, so 41-5 can indicate that there would have been possibly 2 crime scenes, unless it's the house they were invited to. But 41-5 is saying to me, the evidence, the way they were found and how they were found was also manipulated. And of course, we'll look here, 44-8. There's a message and design about all of this. Hidden 35-8. Remember, crime scenes of this nature, we saw it with Celeste, unfortunately, crime scenes of 35-8 and 26-8. So there's a message being sent out. And it's all about exchanging and sharing. So they're sending a message, of course, about these influences. I wonder if these narco and politicians would ever consider perhaps sending them a DM and inviting them to an official luncheon and say, please don't do this 1, 2, 3. Instead of the barbaric and savage way that they get their message across, while allowing Nazi murderers a safe haven. Yeah, it does. All right. Where are we going, ladies and gentlemen? Curious case of Byron Haddo. Now, I was going to do this as a singular episode, and I thought, you know what, let's get it out. I'm going to include it in the Intuitive Sundays. Like we find in Argentina, here in Bali, and I've got their date of birth, Bali's date of birth, and present thoughts to the parents and the family of Byron. My objective is I'm looking at the case cold. The reason why I'm doing the cases is because there's an injustice, and it goes without saying that the impact and ripple effect around the family of the Haddos and Byron's friends and family will be widespread and deep. So condolences, but that for me always is there. Now Bali, look at Bali. Bali's been giving me issues lately as well. You know, when you start seeing all these ethanol deaths and these deaths in Laos and there, and all the shit going around there in the Pacifics, we find in the case of Bali, you know, they got a lot of 5s in the first 2 rows here. And when you start changing laws in a country that deal with people's sexuality and how they should be operating in their sex lives, for example, there must be a heterosexual couple living in a room. You know, that was one of Bali's laws lately, a year or 2 ago. So what we're seeing here in the date here is the 5s. A lot of 5s around here, very concerning. And then we have the 13-4, 22-4, and then all of these 9 outcomes, right? So as much as Bali may be mystique or elevated in spiritual awareness and spiritual hideaways with all the nines, in the flesh and bone of life, these nines can be murderous. And when you have all of these fives, they can change the goalpost. They don't care. When I was looking at young Byron's details here, so let's look on the evening, right? So, well, let's start here. On May 26, I've just realized something. I've been on this chart for about 2-3 days off and on, and eventually it will click at some point, and I got some information on my last time that I looked at it, and it's just dawned upon me now. So when Byron is discovered, right, he is face down in a pool of water. It is a mini splash pool. By all accounts, with the height and the depth of the pool, it's very unlikely that Byron would have dived in the pool, because it's probably knee-deep, and land up facing down in the water, right? Anyway, that's the narrative. We find a 13-4. Okay, so there's the 13-4 death, but there's a hidden 31-4. This hidden 31-4 for me always told me that this hidden 31-4, that his body was already deceased well before he was allegedly discovered. Well before. Interesting, what I just realized now is Bali has the 13-4 in the middle. Now, I'm just going to say, in the +1, so within the 72-hour scan in the +1, in the all is revealed +9 outcome, we find a 50 outcome 5, 5-0 with an outcome 5. Now, based on the reports that I've read, for example, the heart that was missing was only returned at the time of or after his burial or his memorial. But in the time zone of his discovery, we find a 50 outcome 5, because the finding was only informed to police 3 or 4 days later, right, or 5 days even. So already this case is fraught with suspicion. But we find in the numbers 50 outcome 5, which speaks about a big government cover-up. All is revealed. Now I'm just going to point out numbers here, right? In the +9, all is revealed the night, the day and night before this he is discovered. So in other words, the day before we find a 30 outcome 3 hidden, 12-3, 39, 12-3, 21-3, 12-3, 3. Right? Familiar numbers, right? In the +9, so we've got a 34-7. That is very problematic. Why? There's a 7 involved here. A 7 is not the 2 young girls that allegedly he was with. A 7 is someone in authority. Then it's followed by 39, 12, 3, 48, 12, 3, 21, 3, 12, 3, 3. I will say, so what am I saying with these numbers? This was not 2 young girls. It may look like it on the surface. They might have just been the honey traps, but there was something else going on here. That there was a measure of operation around what happened to him that involved officials, locals, and I will say the officials were involved before, not after. So in other words, let's say if the one narrative is a gang boss and his girls drug and rob and murder Byron. That part is true. There's evidence of the gang boss and girls and what. But they were the tools. There are high-level operation numbers here. We find in the +6. So what is the issue? In the +6, we find 37-10-1 as the outcome. So when he now in the water, maybe even 24, that's also a bit of a staging. So we've got in that zone 37-10-1, eh? Before that, we got a 32-5 and 5 conflict. 32-5, getting rid of a particular grouping, 5. Whenever you bring in like tourists and holiday destinations, we started to get hints of it in Spain, Portugal, Bali, is the 5s, when they come into play, speak about, oh, you're an Australian, you're bringing your bad behavior to our holy Bali. And now we're going to start sending a message out to all these tourists. Don't come to Bali with your Babylon ideas. You know? There is numbers like 28-10-1 around here. Here it is here. 2 days before or 3 days before the situation, we reveal, here's a 23-5 conflict. So, for example, May 23, we already have a 5 plus 23-5 issue. That is a grouping issue. That is a community issue. That is an ethnicity issue. That is a foreigner issue. May 22, yeah, hey? I would, if I was investigators, now I would have to go deeper, but May 22 is not a good day. May 22 starts with 22-4, then we have a 27-9, 36-9, 18-9. That's not good. I would invest. What happened to Byron on May 22? Where was he? Is there proof of where he was? What was happening here? May 22. Then it's followed by May 23rd. So we got the conflict operation in motion. May 24. 24-6. Okay. So in the numbers, there is evidence of prescribed medication. However, when we find in the zone a 40 outcome 404, which means an overdose. So here again, now we're in the zone where things are going to go bad for him. The medicine, I believe, has been concocted. There's something wrong around the medicine because the medicine ends in a 6, which means it becomes poison. So we can agree, yes, if you take too much, it's going to be poison to the body. but it was planned. When I say planned, it was deliberate that his particular medicine would react as poison to him, however that was done. Because in the midnight of the discovery day, but that midnight before discovery, we find a 26-8. Now, here's where the heart issue might come in, is that the 26-8 speaks about cardiac arrest that impacts the biology of the body. And the fact that they kept the heart is suspicious. Now, I'm by no means a physician, and how chemicals work in the heart, but there's definitely a lot of heart numbers around. 33-6 can be that all of these in the intention, the day before. Hidden 33-6, 15-6. These are all your heart numbers here. He was definitely poisoned. And I just wonder why they kept his heart. And I'm sure the family in Australia would have done a DNA test to make sure it is his heart, and to check if anything's missing from the heart, because the heart will hold evidence, right? Particularly if he has a heart attack. So in other words, how can he have a heart attack? I'm just going with it. How can he have a heart attack when he was drowning? Or he drowned as cause of death, but, further investigation might show that he actually died of a heart attack. It's easy to put water in the lungs post situation. And I will just say, with this 50 outcome 5 year, and preceded by 14-5, outcome 14-5, and you got all these 5s in Bali, I wouldn't trust a single thing that the authorities from Bali have said. Let's leave it at that for now. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I beg your pardon. I took a mini break in between the first and second segments. I just rearranged the thumbnail slightly to include the 3 angels from Buenos Aires. So Brett James, just a quick, his airplane goes down September 18. We saw in the Air India incident all the conflict of nines when that airplane went down. But in the case of Brett James, we find hidden 30 outcome 3, so there could have been some electrical, beg your pardon, switching to electrical malfunction explosion, 30 outcome 3. Hidden, the outcome, beg your pardon, 39, 12, 3, 21, 3, 12, 3, 3. What is going on here? In the action, oh dear. So in the action, hidden action of the day Brett and his family goes down, hidden 33-6. And 42-6. So sacrificial destruction of entire family here. 33-6, 42-6. In a portal sequence. What is going on in the world? And Mr. Graham Greene, when I saw his passing, I was a fan of Dancing with Wolves. Let's just say that. But announced September 1. So let's backtrack a bit. So there, I can see August 31, he's already passed. Followed by 39, 12, 3, 48, 12, 3, 21, 3, 12, 3. Preceded by 30, outcome 3, the switch. The chemical bomb, 30, outcome 3, zap, motherfucker. Is that how they do it? So when you join the ranks of high society, monarch programming, MK Ultra, there's always a 30 outcome 3 switch. My God. My God. And it happened in the range of a portal sequence. No, man, what is going on here? All the 39, 12, 3s, put your hands up. We must not go quiet in the night. We must not go quiet in the night. That they don't rule by thumb, but by the voices of the collective. Bye for now.